Hey parents, this video is for you. Our time with Summer JumpStart is coming to an end, but that doesn't mean that your reading has to end. You all have your kit, it's got 8 books in it, and there's lots of things you can still do with the kit to keep Summer JumpStart going up until school starts in a few weeks. So inside your kit, you have a set of books. You've got In a Tropical Rainforest, Food in the Ocean, Flags Around the World, Helping Animals, Vote, Watch a Frog Grow, What is Motion, and Farther and Faster. So, if you want some tips on things to do with these books, you can always find them in the front inside cover. So first you have a big idea. It's always right there in the corner. It tells you the main idea of your book. So first, when you read with your student, you can read it together. Then you can have your student read it independently. And that way they'll have a good understanding of what the book is about at that point, because they've had at least 2 readings. If there's still some confusion, you can always read it together again. Then they should be able to identify that big idea that's up here. For example, this is In a Tropical Rainforest. The big idea is a tropical rainforest is a home for many of Earth's plants and animals. So your students should be able to identify some of the plants and animals you would find in a rainforest. After that, you can have a list of skills. It says skills at a glance, and it's right here. It tells you that you can read aloud to clarify, so that would be things like identifying those plants and animals. It gives you your comprehension strategy, make predictions. So every time you finish a section of this book, you can make predictions about what's going to happen next. It gives you phonics skills that you're working on from this book. So for example, this book is the initial R family blends, and it gives you some examples. You can make sure that your student knows how to find those blends and how to say the words using those blends. For fluency, it's reading using prosody. And prosody is that thing where when you read, you have intonation, you stop at the periods, you use exclamation marks to something exciting. It's just that really good flow of reading. It gives you content vocabulary. So again, you can go over the content vocabulary words. They're all in the book, so you can find those inside your book, figure out what pages they're on, how to say them, how to pronounce them, and what they mean. Then you have grammar, word study, and language development. This book has used prepositions and used synonyms. You can go over those. It gives you examples of each of these things. So that's for all of your books. The other thing in your book is the reading journal. Now this is a good resource because the first half of the book, so through page 30, is nonfiction, and after page 31 forward is for fiction. So all of our books in our kit are nonfiction books. So you can take anything from your books and use the nonfiction section. For example, this page says favorite picture. So what you would do with that is read a book with lots of pictures in it. Choose a favorite picture. What does the picture tell you? Draw the picture and write about it below. So any of these nonfiction books, you'll have your student draw a picture from the book and write about it. That's something they can do with any book. Same thing, if we look at page 22, interesting details, you would go through your book and write down details that your student thinks are interesting. The other part of this is fiction, and none of these books are fiction, but if you have fiction books at home, or you can find a fiction book on YouTube or on a tablet or iPad or your Apple library, you can read those books and still use your reading journal to answer questions and do some work. The last thing is your Read at Home guide. Now this is a valuable guide. It gives you tips and tricks to help your students get into reading. It gives you strategies and a few extra things to do. For example, no matter what age your student is, reading aloud is important. It shows your student that you're interested first in what they're reading. And also, it shows them a good example of good reading. Now, we know that as adults, obviously, we read more fluently. We read, we can say more difficult words than our students. But by you reading, it shows them how it's supposed to sound. It's always good to do as much as possible. Also, encourage your student to read independently. So if you have a time set up every day where you read together, remind them that they can read by themselves too. They can even read the same thing that you're going to read together, but see if they can read it independently to begin with. And then when you come back together, they can check and make sure they got everything right. If there's an author they like, look up the author on social media. Most authors have websites or Twitter accounts or Instagrams. If you like Pete the Cat, I know that you can write letters to Pete the Cat and he'll usually respond. If you like the Dogman books by Dave Pilkey, there is an entire gigantic website for Dave Pilkey that has all kinds of activities, books, read alouds, videos, all kinds of things for you to look at. The same thing with Dr. Seuss at seussville.com. Tons of activities. There's even lesson plans to go along with books. So it's what you make it. You can do a lot with what you have. And the other thing is let your students see you reading. We want them to be encouraged to read more. So if they see adults reading, it's going to encourage them to read too. And it's anything. You can read a newspaper, a magazine, you can read a blog. Just let them see you reading something. We want to encourage them as much as possible. And also, read a little every day. The recommended amount of time is 20 minutes, but if you've only got 5 minutes to squeeze in, take that. Just make sure there's a little bit of reading going on every day.